You are listening to I Am Refocused Radio with your host, Shamaya Reed. This show is designed to inspire you to live your purpose and regain your focus. And now, here's your host, Shamaya Reed.
Hey, you listen to I Am Refocused Radio, and today is a special day. Today, we have two special guests. We have Martin Luther King III and also Arndrea Waters King. They are the hosts of My Legacy podcast. Had the honor to test out the podcast, and I'm telling you, the amazing episodes, you are going to be in for a treat. First and foremost, I want to welcome you both and say, appreciate your time today. How are you both doing?
We are doing great. And it is particularly exciting for me to be talking to you all. I fell in love with San Antonio. I had the immense privilege and honor to being there with you all for the holiday this year, and truly fell in love with the community there.
Yeah, I appreciate that. I appreciate those words. That means a lot. And I'll start out with this. When it comes to building a meaningful legacy, how did the action of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., how did his actions speak louder than the words?
Well, of course, Dad and his team, always enunciating team, were able to change and transform our nation in a very positive way. And yet it was many years to get a King holiday that my mom and many others, Stevie Wonder, worked on, along with the passage of the bill in the House and Senate of the United States of America. And yet what his legacy is about is connection. This podcast is about us ultimately reconnecting and being connected. Our society feels like it's so disconnected. And so we have assembled and invited a number of guests to share their stories. We often know the glory, but we don't know the story. So when you hear the story, you really, really appreciate what people may have gone through, because then you find out that what they're going through, you may also be going through. And the reality is every last one of us has a legacy. It does not have to be monumental, but whatever you do every day, hopefully in terms of building and saving your own life, maybe your community, as well as our nation and world, we all must collectively work together to create a better community for all. And so that's what we hope these messages that are being listened to are doing. The stories are so interesting, so fascinating. Human beings are fascinating. And yet, oftentimes, as I say, technology is doing as much to disconnect us as it is to connect us. We got to figure out, how do we commoditize and make a connection important, because that ultimately will create a better community, a better nation and world.
And Arndrea, this past Sunday, you had a true honor talking to David and Nate in their discussion on relationships and both of their stories. When you think of what they said this past Sunday, how do you see relationships playing a role in one's success and mission?
I think that relationships are essential to any of ours, and our success and our personal missions, and ultimately our legacy of what we want to leave in the world. The thing that I love the most about David and Nate's conversation is the fact that you have two Black men that are best friends and that have been through thick and thin with each other, for them to tell their story. I mean, we rarely hear the story of two Black men that are best friends and, how they have stuck by each other. And, so for people to find themselves within that story, I think is incredibly important. And then obviously then it also integrates the fact that they met on the set of Red Tails, which is, the story of the Tuskegee Airmen at a time when, a lot of those stories are they're in danger of being wiped from history. And so that conversation was so rich and so deep that we actually had to make 2 episodes from that conversation. Not all of our episodes are 2, but that one, they went there, and it was so powerful that particular conversation is 2 episodes.
And for you, Mr. King, when you look at how purpose serves in one's actions, what is one thing that you believe people can align with not only to fulfill their purpose, but to remain focused?
So I think, it's obviously a personal thing. What one has to know is that my plan can only become reality if I intentionally engage in it. Now, it may not, but it can only become if you're focused and engaged. And focus can come from many areas, many inspirations. As I say, these listening to these podcasts hopefully will, first of all, inspire you as individuals. You've got to fortify yourself on a daily basis. We can't just be about going along just to get along. It really is a process. Every day that you wake up, you have to realize that I have purpose in my life. And purpose is what connects you maybe to others. And connection is what hopefully creates a climate of inspiring you to do all that you can. And all that you can doesn't mean that, it becomes monumental. Dad's legacy looms large, dad and mom's around the world. But everybody's doesn't have to do that. But everybody has a legacy, and everyone is important. But you have to start from knowing that and believing that. And then, as I say, being intentional.
Once again, we're listening to this amazing interview with these two special guests, Martin Luther King III and also Arndrea Waters King, the host of My Legacy podcast. My last question for you, Arndrea. When you look how impactful that your family has been to America and across the world, this podcast is helping people to create their own legacy. As you are doing future episodes, what do you hope the listener will gravitate towards as they pursue their own legacy?
I think most importantly, at a time when we are feeling more disconnected than ever in our lives, in our nation and world, I hope that each listener finds the space and inspiration within these conversations to reconnect to themselves first and foremost, but then also to take that connection and reconnect with the community and the world at large. One of the reasons that we're also having this podcast is that it ties into our Realize the Dream initiative, where we are organizing communities all across America to complete 100 million hours of service by the 100th birthday of Martin Luther King Jr., 100 for 100. But it all starts with us remembering and finding that connection within ourselves to continue to know that what we are going through, that we are not the only ones. And it is extraordinarily important for us to reach out to each other, find inspiration, and do something not only for yourself, but also to make the world a bit better place, to remember the immense power that each of us has as individuals.
You can listen to My Legacy podcast on iHeartRadio. I want to say to you both, Martin Luther King III and Arndrea Waters King, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you. And again, thank you, San Antonio. We love you. And also SACAM, an organization that I worked with when we were out there, and the beautiful interfaith service that you all had to continue to remember to turn to each other and not on each other.